Clare's Law was introduced more than a decade ago after mother Clare Wood was murdered at the hands of her abusive ex-partner. It gives people the right to ask the police if their partner has a violent past.
Good Morning Britain can reveal there are now concerns that the law is not being used properly by some UK police forces, leaving victims at major risk of harm. Here's Graham Stothard.
Clare Wood was just 36 when she was brutally killed by her ex-partner. The Salford mum met him online but had no idea about his violent past, including restraining orders and jail time for harassing another woman. The murder sparked Clare's Law, which came into effect in England and Wales in March 2014. It gives people the right to find out through the police if a current or ex-partner has a record of abusive behaviour or violence. Close friends and relatives can also make a request if they're concerned. But Good Morning Britain has learned that backlogs and delays mean missed opportunities to keep victims like Clare safe and could leave perpetrators slipping through the cracks.
Well, Clare's daughter, Maddie Wood, was just 10 years old when her mum was killed, and she's been campaigning to strengthen the law for victims. She joins us alongside Amanda Rowe from the Independent Office for Police Conduct. Good morning to both of you, and Maddie, I could see you watching the recap there of what happened to your mum, and also seeing your granddad there speak so passionately and campaign so hard before he died. I mean, just remind us again what happened to Clare, your mum, and why you took on this campaign in her memory.
So my mum met someone online when I was about 9-ish years old, 8, 9-ish years old, and he progressively became more and more abusive as time went on, and eventually escalated into stalking, into constant calls, threats, and eventually into, sadly, him killing her. So the reason I've taken on this campaign now is to continue some of my granddad's work with the law, that's just deeply important to protect people and to inform people. I think it needs to be used to its full effectiveness in order for it to save as many lives as possible.
What if Clare's Law, which is obviously in your mum's name, if there had been a law, a duty on police forces to disclose what they knew about partners or former partners, what information would your mum have been able to find out about this man? So
if at the time, before Clare's Law, you were not allowed to know any previous offences, but if she had been able to, if the police had been able to tell her, she would have found, he held a woman at knife point, he had multiple restraining orders on him. It was a really serious history of violence.
And Amanda, you are at the IOPC, Police Conduct, Independent Office. 60,000 applications were made in the last year for people trying to find out if their partner or ex-partner has this kind of history. That is an astonishing number of applications. In a way, it's sort of no wonder that police forces might be struggling under that number of applications. But what are they doing wrong? How many of them are not delivering that information in the 4-week deadline?
I think I couldn't say how many are not delivering within the deadline, but we know that some forces are not meeting that 28-day deadline. There are delays in providing disclosure of information, and there are also issues in terms of safeguarding whilst people are making an application and waiting for the results, because they are at heightened risk at that point.
What are they doing? What are the police officers doing wrong? Why is that delay happening?
Some of the delay is the pressure of the amount of applications. They've quadrupled in the last 5 years. So that puts pressure on police forces to do so many and think about their resources. Also, we found training was an issue as well and could be improved.
Yeah, and Maddie, how does it feel for you? Because I'm sure your mum would have been so proud to see you carrying on this work. But, a law was named after her, and now that law isn't being properly applied. Does that feel like a betrayal of her memory to you?
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this law was to prevent people from meeting the same end or, staying in abusive relationships that were going to only get progressively worse. And that was the whole point of this law. So the idea that it's not being executed to its full potential and more people than necessary are in these situations is quite upsetting.
Reading about your mum's absolutely devastating story, you as a child, even though you were just young, you were in that environment. And you noticed, didn't you, by this man's behaviour towards his own pet,
Yes.
that there was something wrong. And sometimes this is a warning sign. So what did you see?
So I saw he gradually got more and more kind of violent. He at one point punched holes in my mum's door as well. That was something he did. But also, they had a dog together, and he started to hit the dog when it did things wrong. And he swore me to secrecy as a child and said, "You can't tell anybody that you just saw me hit this dog." And it was absolutely horrifying. And I think even as a kid, I was like, this is wrong. Like, something's wrong. This is going to escalate.
Amanda, what advice would you give to women and men? Because, you know, these aren't there's no distinction. Sometimes it's either partner can be violent or abusive and have this history. What advice do you give about what sort of information you need to ask for from police forces and how they can, I don't know, help the officers who have a duty to provide it?
So I think the information that can be disclosed under Clare's law is convictions for violent offending or sexual offences. Also a history of domestic abuse. Someone may be a serial domestic abuser, as an example, or really stalking and harassment, a history of stalking and harassment.
And would these be complaints or would they be convictions?
They could be both. It's information that's held on the system.
And what is the threshold for the person who's applying? I mean, if you just have a sort of suspicion about your partner or you're just entering a relationship and you think, I just want to know this person's OK, is that enough?
That is sufficient to make an application. Sometimes there is a trigger for somebody making an application. Sometimes, as a matter of course, when someone enters into a new relationship, they will routinely check.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting talking to you both. Maddie, congratulations on the work you're doing. It's so important that people understand that they do have access to this. And well done for keeping up the pressure on police forces to do it in a way that's going to save lives.
Yeah. Thank you both so much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A Home Office spokesperson said we fully expect police forces to follow the guidance, respond rapidly and help protect those at risk from harm. We've made it our mission to halve violence against women and girls this decade, which includes the right to know about a partner or ex-partner's previous abusive offending.
And if you've been affected by any of the issues we've been discussing this morning, you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.